November 2025 Watchtower Study Edition. Yes, I know we're still in August, but it seems that at some point in their history, they needed a few extra millions and decided to release the new issues ahead of time. Well, lo and behold, in this magazine, a brand new prophetic light appears, so bright it practically blinds you. And once again, it shows us how they keep adapting their interpretations to make sure their flock stays expectant and keeps preaching hard. Stick around until the end, because we're going to break down that Watchtower article with its new interpretation in detail, and I guarantee you'll be surprised at the way they manage to adjust their so-called truth whenever it suits them. Before we begin, if you're new here, let me tell you that the voice you'll hear has been generated with artificial intelligence. However, the content doesn't come from an automated system. It has been written entirely by the creator of this channel. You can call me Nowachi. Let's get straight to the point. This is about the November 2025 Watchtower Study Edition in the Questions from Readers section. And by the way, we never really know who those curious readers are or if they even exist. This time, our mysterious questioner asks, what thought will Jehovah put into the hearts of the nations in the near future? If you have no idea what this is about, don't worry. We're going to make it clearer than crystal water. So first, let's pay attention to what this venerable, century-old, and deceitful publication has to say. Regarding the start of the Great Tribulation, Revelation 17 verses 16 and 17 says, "The 10 horns that you saw and the wild beast, these will hate the prostitute, and will make her devastated and naked, and they will eat up her flesh and completely burn her with fire. For God put it into their hearts to carry out his thought. Yes, to carry out their one thought by giving their kingdom to the wild beast." Let me pause for a moment to explain for those who may not be familiar with this passage or with Jehovah's Witnesses' beliefs. The following illustration will help a lot. It's taken straight from the Witnesses' own publications. As the Bible verse we just read describes, we see a wild beast with 10 horns, as well as a prostitute riding on top of the beast. Now that you have a visual idea of Revelation 17 verses 16 to 17, let's take a look at what these elements mean for Jehovah's Witnesses. It's right there in the very article we've been reading. Who are the main characters in the prophecy? The prostitute is also called Babylon the Great. She represents the world empire of false religion. The scarlet-colored wild beast is a symbol of the peace organization that began to function in 1919 as the League of Nations and is now the United Nations. The 10 horns represent all the governmental powers that support the wild beast. So, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, the prostitute represents all religions in existence, except for themselves, of course. The beast symbolizes the United Nations, and the 10 horns are all the governments that back the United Nations. At present, 98% of the world's countries are members of that organization. So in practice, it refers to nearly all the governments on Earth. With this in mind, go back and read Revelation 17 verses 16 to 17, and you'll understand why Jehovah's Witnesses believe that very soon the United Nations, along with the governments that support it, will destroy all religions, except theirs, of course. Now, then, according to Jehovah's Witnesses, what is the new light or new understanding about this passage? Let's go back to the words of this illustrious magazine. In the past, our publications have said that the thought that Jehovah will put into the hearts of the nations is to destroy false religion. However, an adjustment is needed. The thought that Jehovah will put into the hearts of the nations is for them to give their kingdom to the wild beast. Let's be clear, they're not saying that the United Nations and the governments that support it will not destroy the world's religions. What they're clarifying is that the phrase in Revelation 17 verses 16 to 17 that says, "For God put into their hearts to carry out his thought," yes, to carry out their one thought by giving their kingdom to the wild beast, specifically refers to the idea that God, at some point, will instill in the governments the decision to hand over their authority to the United Nations. We can put it another way. Nowadays, as you know, practically no one pays attention to the United Nations. For example, it has repeatedly condemned Israel's attacks on Gaza or Russia's war in Ukraine. yet its resolutions end up hanging in the air. Nobody takes them seriously. In practice, it's an organization that issues opinions but has no real power. What Jehovah's Witnesses claim is that in the near future, God will change this and cause the governments of the world to hand over their power to the United Nations, granting it real authority. Just imagine the United Nations scolding the governments of the United States, Russia, or Israel, and those governments responding, "Yes, we will do whatever you say, Mr. United Nations." Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Well, that is exactly what Jehovah's Witnesses believe will happen. Take a look at how they themselves express it in the conclusion of their article. What then may we expect? We need not look for news reports that governments are slowly becoming more supportive of the United Nations. What we can expect is this. With startling suddenness, Jehovah will put it into the hearts of the nations to hand over their power to the wild beast. When that happens, we will know that the great tribulation is about to begin. Meanwhile, let us stay awake and keep our senses because sudden changes are soon to come. Did you notice the manipulation? The Watchtower tells Jehovah's Witnesses, "There is nothing in the news that suggests the governments of the world are about to hand over their authority to the United Nations or that they are close to destroying religion. But that doesn't mean it's far off. On the contrary, they insist it will happen suddenly. So, even if everything points the other way and our interpretation doesn't seem to be coming true, you just keep working for free, preaching, and don't get distracted, because God will make things change in an instant." This is exactly how the Watchtower has always used biblical interpretations, like a carrot on a stick, keeping their flock busy, constantly waiting for something that never really comes. Let me ask you something. Do you want this content to reach more and more people who need it? It's very easy and it doesn't cost a thing. Just subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a like, and share this video with anyone you think it could help. Thank you for being part of this project. See you soon.